What it do, y'all? Something that I realized early on is that I was living my life on autopilot. And then something that I realized is that almost everybody lives their life on autopilot. It's almost like we think the same shit over and over again. And we do things so similar to the day before that everything begins to blend in. Everything becomes this static thing, this stable thing. And then our mind sees it as like, oh, we don't have to be 100% present. We don't have to perform at 100% efficiency because everything is the same. Everything is comfortable. Everything is static. So let's just go on autopilot until the moment arises. Right? But right now is when the moment is arising. We need to be 100% at efficiency. We need to be 100% here at all times. I mean, how else are we going to present the best version of ourselves? How else are we going to live the life that we want to live if we're not 100% present? If we're over here in our heads thinking the same fucking shit that we used to think a year ago, how is that helping us? How is that allowing us to live the life that we want to live? I mean, a year could pass by, 2 years could pass by, and you're looking back thinking to yourself, where the fuck did the time go? And that's something that I realized early on. So I'm making this video because I want to share with y'all the things that I did to be able to turn that autopilot off. So hopefully these things might help you. Alright. Looking at my notes here, so if you catch me looking down, that's what I'm doing. Alright. First thing that I started doing is I started going out of my comfort zone. I spoke about this in multiple videos in the past, but going out of your comfort zone is probably one of the most important things. Now the reason for this is because we usually tend to remember the highs and the lows in our life, right? Most highs and most lows only occur outside of your comfort zone. When I went skydiving for the first time, was outside of my comfort zone. When I got a girl for the first time in my life, was outside of my comfort zone. When I was feeling anxious all the time and I decided to finally break free of that and start talking to people and look people in the eye, that was outside of my comfort zone. It wasn't until I stepped out of my comfort zone that I was capable of really turning that autopilot off, because like I said in the beginning, if you're not outside your comfort zone, if you're doing the same shit over and over and over again, your mind sees it as something static. Your mind sees it as this thing that's just continuing like this versus highs and the lows, these waves, right? This is how life should be. Not like this, not a straight line, but like this. It should be waves, right? When you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, that's when you experience that shit. I mean, the lowest moments in my life were because I was out of my comfort zone, right? I would say one of the lowest moments in my life was my first rejection. My first rejection in terms of a woman rejecting me. And that only happened because I stepped outside of my comfort zone. That shit wouldn't have happened if I stayed within my comfort zone. If I stayed in my comfort zone, I would have never talked to a chick. I would have never gone skydiving. I would have never made a YouTube channel. I would have never done this self-improvement. I would have never become the best version of myself and turned this autopilot off to be able to be present and to be able to be the best version of myself and live the best life that I can if I never stood out of my comfort zone or stepped out of my comfort zone. So that's number one. If you're not doing that shit, I highly recommend it. Number two is trying to do different things every single day. Because when you're doing the same shit every single day, remember that shit starts to blend in. If you start, let's say you're playing video games. Let's say every single day you wake up and you're playing video games. If you're doing that every single day, your mind is going to go into autopilot. Your mind is not going to see a reason to be here. Your mind is not going to see a reason to be alert and focused, hyper focused. All right, but if you start changing that shit up, like let's say you start playing video games maybe once or twice a week, and then every other day you're switching it up. Maybe you're going outside, you're going for a run, you're going to a social setting, you're talking with people, then you're going to the nature trail, or let's say the next day you're fully investing in yourself. Maybe you're learning a new language. Maybe you're over here reading. Maybe you're over here watching documentaries, learning new things. These things, as insignificant as they might seem, if you start adding that shit like I did, I started realizing real quick that once I started changing little things here and there, just making each day different than the last, that allowed my mind to start shutting off the autopilot and coming more into the present and into my actual mind, like being able to use my mind versus my mind using me. That's really all that I noticed with number 2. So yeah, just do different things every day. Third one is to do something that's bigger than yourself. Now I'm not telling you some nasty joke here to go and do something that's bigger than yourself. I ain't telling you to do that shit. What I'm telling you right now is do something that's bigger than yourself in terms of maybe your purpose, in terms of maybe work, in terms of school, or just helping the world out, the community, or something like that. Something that I do is this, right here, right now. What I'm doing with you guys, YouTube, me sharing my experience, my life experience with y'all, this is me doing something bigger than myself, okay? I'm helping y'all out. I'm not obligated to help you guys out, but I want to help you guys out. I feel great helping you guys out. And at the same time, me helping you guys out is helping me out. Because by me doing something greater than myself, it makes my mind shut off. It makes my mind be 100% right there, alert, focused, ready for anything. And the reason for that is because it gives you this sense of duty. It gives you the sense of purpose, the sense of belonging, that it's like, okay, I gotta do something. It's kind of like when we were kids and we would play games with other kids, and it's like everyone had a clear role within that game. And I spoke about this before, but let's say that you were the fireman in this game. You have a clear role as the fireman, and you have your duties as the fireman within that game. You're gonna be playing that game 100%. You're gonna be putting everything you got into this game. You're gonna be fully engulfed into this game. But if you're playing that same game and you don't have a clear role, you don't have a duty as to what it is that you're supposed to do, you're bored. You don't want to play anymore. You start wandering off, and at some point or another, you're gonna stop playing. Right? That's what happens with our mind, is that we're not giving ourselves that clear sense of duty, that clear sense of purpose. And because of that shit, our mind sees it as like, oh, well, we don't really need to work that hard. We could just chill. Ain't nothing much to do. We can just lay back, you know? But once you do something that's bigger than yourself, my bad, I had to check. I had to check and make sure that shit was still recording. Once you do something that's bigger than yourself, you don't have that luxury of like, oh, I'm just gonna slack off. Right? Because I could slack off and never record videos again, but then I lose my sense of duty. I lose my role within this game. Right? So, number 3, doing something that's bigger than yourself. I found it to be a huge proponent in terms of turning that autopilot off. And the last thing to be able to turn this autopilot off is to make time for what really matters. Right, now what I used to do is I used to journal. Right, so if I were to show you guys here, I have like, I'm not gonna show you the details, but every single day I would at least journal one time, and you know, just kind of write little things here and there. And at some point, I looked back on my journal after 3 months, and everything blended in. Everything was the same. All the thoughts that I was basically realizing, every thought that I had in my mind was the same over and over and over and over again. It just kept being repeated in a different way. And I thought to myself, yo, something has to change. I'm doing something wrong here. Right? So what I did is I mapped out what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. So I wrote down, okay, spending 1 hour cooking, spending 2 hours doing miscellaneous things, spending 30 minutes shitting a day, I'm spending 4 or 5 hours working a day, I'm spending 1 hour reading, I'm spending 0 hours spending time with my friends. So it's like I was literally looking at all this shit, and it hit me. I'm not doing anything that I want to do. So when you do things that you really want to do, it changes your life. It makes you appreciate it more. It makes you have a better quality of life. It makes you more present because you're enjoying yourself. You have a better vibe. You just feel better overall. So when you can look at your schedule, when you can look at your life and look at the amount of time that you're spending on certain shit, you can start taking away that time. Like, let's say you spend an hour on social media. Let's say you spend an hour a day on YouTube watching YouTube videos. What if you were to take that hour away and you were to put it towards something that you really, really want to do? Like, let's say you want to play basketball or play football or play soccer, right? But you're not doing that right now. But you're making excuses to yourself. Oh, once I make more money and I have more time, then I'll be able to do this. The thing is, we always have enough time to do what we want to do. We just have to be able to prioritize and schedule this shit in, right? So make sure you're doing what it is that you really want to do in your life, and that in itself will cause the autopilot to shut off. And like I said, if you incorporate these 4 things, then it might just completely shut your autopilot off, as it did for me. That's pretty much it. I hope the video helped you in one way, shape, or form. If you guys like this type of content, if you want to go even deeper with this content, and you want to support the channel and myself at the same time, consider becoming a Patreon. I'm gonna leave the link down in the description below. And with this being said, remember y'all that the time is now.